We are now being joined by Glenn Carl, former national intelligence officer from the CIA and national security and foreign policy expert. Glenn, welcome back to WION. Cuba says that none of the Russian warships have nuclear weapons, but still, do you think that the United States should be alarmed?
Well, this is an old gambit, which is not to dismiss its significance. You talked about in your previous profile or report the Cuban Missile Crisis. That has continued for 65 years. In the late 1970s, there was another flurry of concern when it appeared that the Russians were doing the same thing during President Carter's administration. His reaction blew the situation out of proportion. Actually, he presented it as an existential threat and suffered politically for it when it hadn't changed the circumstances. I would view this event as the latest chapter of the same story, really. Clearly, as you said correctly, this is Russia's response to America's support or evolving support for Ukraine. But like the White House spokesman has said in the last couple of days, the U.S. will monitor this. It doesn't change the strategic equation. The tensions are high, but it's a tit for tat, I beat my breast, you beat yours kind of circumstance. And I wouldn't be particularly alarmed. It doesn't change the strategic or even day-to-day circumstances. It's just a sign of tensions, but I don't find it as increasing the likelihood of war.
Do you think the lack of dialogue between Moscow and Washington is making the present situation more precarious in one way or the other?
Yes, I think that's I think that is a significant point. The one good thing almost to have come out of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 was the establishment of what was called, I think, the hotline or the red phone, or the hotline was a red phone. In any event, a formal process between then the Soviet Union and the United States to communicate during times of great crisis so as to avoid or try to avoid an unintended event to trigger an uncontrollable clash. And the fact that the United States and Russia today are having trouble communicating is alarming. You always want to communicate, even to your enemies at a time of war, with your enemies at a time of war, through one channel or another. And the more communication, the better the chance of avoiding an unintended cascade of events. So that is alarming. And you can see in U.S.-Chinese relations, which have been deteriorating for years, in the last 18 months, I would say, there have been clear signs both by Beijing and by Washington to try to reestablish communications, and that has had some positive effects. It would be far better were the United States and Russia to be able to get on that path again, too. Yes, that's an important point.
Glenn Carl, thank you so much for joining us on WION and for that analysis. We'll be following the story, of course, very closely, and I do look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Always happy to do so.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.